Here we go again with another tier list. I only did one just a few weeks back, but I enjoyed doing it so much that I thought it'd be fun to bring you guys another one again here. This time we're looking at the best pop albums from the 2000s, the biggest pop albums from the 2000s, perhaps even some of the most overlooked albums from the 2000s, all in the pop genre, and ranking them in a tier list style. If this is something people enjoy, I will keep this going and do different decades. And I'll give you maybe the 90s pop albums, maybe the 2010s pop albums, maybe the 80s pop albums, and then I might even do singles. The 2000s pop singles, maybe, if you like it. You can click the link in the description to get this tier list yourself and rank these albums there. There's like 40 of them. There probably are some that are glaringly obvious that I've missed, but there's already so many here, and I don't know if I'll even get through all of them in this very video, but I think we're going to have fun here. You're going to enjoy my takes and you're not going to be angry at anything I say, because that's how the internet works. And you can check out my Patreon as well to join the Discord server, to support all more videos, get your own requests like this. If there's other videos you want to see me do, you can request them. Let's get right into it then. We have the tier list here to my right of me. We got all-timer, excellent, very good, decent, mid, bad, awful. All of these are going to be ranked in that particular order. All-timer is basically like best of the decade potential, but excellent isn't too far behind that. So they're the two tiers you want to be getting into, really. There's no shame in being very good, though. But let's just go straight into this from the order that we have here and start with 808s and Heartbreak. Already going to piss people off. I think this is just decent, to be honest. No, wrong category. Decent to good. It's all right. It's got some excellent songs and some legendary Kanye moments. Obviously, the type of person he's become has been very questionable, so I'm not even going to, get into all that. But regardless of that, the music back then for this album was quite influential. Like, if we're talking influence, this would be top of the top, probably the highest. Maybe even on this whole list. The influence this album's had is insane. It stretches out so wide. But the album itself, just, it's all right. It's not that great to me. It's all right. Aaliyah, though, she goes straight and excellent, my friends. She goes straight and excellent. There is no debate here. Aaliyah with her 2001 album, fantastic, fire. Some of the best R&B music of the 2000s. I've already went crazy and praised this album like mad in my R&B Essentials video, so you should go check that out if you want to see me talk about it more in depth there, because I do talk a lot about it there. And it is an absolute classic. Obviously, we lost her so young, which is such a shame, but the music lives on forever. It is absolutely fantastic, this album. It really is. The influence this album's had is insane as well. Like, no one talks about this album as much as they should. The influence is crazy with this one. Let's go into Amy Winehouse, Back in Black as well. Maybe a bit controversial here as well. What I said at the start of the video is not aging well here. People aren't going to be too happy, I don't think, with some of these. But Amy Winehouse, Back to Black is good. It's really good. It's really good. I think what she was doing on this album at the time was so wildly different to so many other artists. I think it encouraged an artist like Adele to kind of come through and be just so unashamedly soulful and classic with her sound. And I think that was helped by Amy Winehouse, because her style was just so 60s and 70s influence, and it was pretty weird to see this breakthrough into the mainstream. It fully deserved it, by the way, it really did. But yeah, I think it really encouraged a lot more artists to kind of just embrace that era a lot more in the mainstream. Again, another artist we lost so young though, and I think these two really could have been some of the biggest names in music for years if they carried on. It's such a shame how much talent was lost there. But yeah, really good album. Some weaker tracks, particularly in the second half, and obviously her influences are just literally worn on her sleeves. Like, as good as this album is, I find it a bit odd that we never talk about some of the classic albums that she's quite clearly influenced by, to be honest. But even still, for what it is, it's really good. I'm not going to go too much in depth with this one as well, because I literally have just talked about it recently, but Brandy, really underrated this album, man. Really, really super underrated. Yeah, goes right next to Aaliyah in Excellent. I think there's no real conversation to be had there, honestly. All right, Chris Brown next. We're gonna go at our first bad. Again, the type of person he is, I'm not going to go into all that. I'm talking about the music here, right? And it's honestly just bad. Like, this album is really dated like crazy. The lyrics on here are so bad. Some of the vocal performances actually aren't even that good either. And I feel like Chris Brown was coming through being known as a guy that could sing really well. But honestly, sometimes I don't think he's that great of a singer. But when you pair it with the lyrics, it's really awkward to listen to. Yeah, I'm not even going any further with this one. Just a really, really dated R&B album for sure. I want to mention Coldplay. Going to put Coldplay in decent to good. Not a fan of Coldplay really as a band. But in the 2000s, I would probably say this was one of the better releases that they put out. I don't rate Parachutes, I really don't. But I think this one is actually quite good. I'm going to mention here a bit of like an overlooked one over the years. Fergie. I feel like this album's kind of overlooked. There's some really good songs on it. The singles are really good too. Yeah, I mean, we did get the Jack Harlow like interpolation, which was terrible. But that kind of did spur me on to actually go back and listen to Fergie, because I was like, I don't really know much about her music other than those singles, but this was a pretty impressive album actually. It's just weird to see that she's just not really like been much of an albums artist over the years. It's quite strange. Want to mention Girls Aloud in the very good tier. I think this is well, that went straight into the all-timer. That is a very good album for me. I think Girls Aloud being like one of the best girl pop groups to ever come out of the UK. Of course, you've got quite a lot of competition there because there were so many girl pop groups coming out of the UK. Spice Girls, Sugar Babes, All Saints, All Saints even British actually, I might need to check that one up. Little Mix, of course, who have just literally ran the last 10 years in girl pop music. But I would still say Girls Aloud like are up there with the best. And yeah, there's some great songs on this album, man, like The Promise, Untouchable, like really good stuff, such good stuff. I am also going to put Gorillaz here. Did again talk about this recently. I think Demon Days is very good. I don't think it's quite as good as some people say it is, but there's some excellent songs there. Of course, Feel Good Inc. Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood's not on the album. Feel Good Inc. Dare. What am I talking about, man? El Mañana. Yeah, so many good songs on this. It kind of hits a bit of a mellow stretch at points where it just kind of feels like it's dragging along a little bit for me. But yeah, some great stuff here. May as well get Kanye again mentioned here because I'm going to say this is excellent. And I'm going to put, why does it keep doing that? There we go. Excellent. I'm going to put it right there. I am going to order these because the last time I did a tier list, I kind of just put them wherever. But I am going to order them in their selected tiers. And I think I like this more than the Brandy album, so I'm going to put it there. I don't think it's as good as the Aaliyah album, though. But yeah, Graduation. I mean, look, even for as bad as Drunken Hot Girls is, which could easily be his worst ever song, this is still an excellent album, man. Like, the hits on this album go for days, man. Like, so many memorable moments. You got Stronger, you got Friggin' Good Morning, you got Champion, I Wonder, which I think is one of his best songs, and maybe one of his most underrated songs as well. Flashing Lights, which is just an absolute all-timer of a song. Like, so many songs on this album are absolute all-timers. I would just say some tracks drag it down slightly to make it just slightly fall into the excellent tier. But yeah, Graduation, I think, was, again, similar to 808's, a big moment in music for Influence, but it actually lives up to the brilliance of the music as well. I want to throw in Natalia Lafourcade in Excellent, man, because let me tell you, in fact, she's going a bit further up too. This probably is going to be one people go, what is that? Never heard of it. And that's fine, you probably haven't. But seriously, check it out, because Who is so good. One of the best albums of that year. And I wanted to include it here because I don't think it really gets the respect that it gets. Natalia is a respected artist, though. I think in her home country, she's more beloved than she is in the UK. But that's just kind of her lack of respect for non-English singers, really. But yeah, she's fantastic. Natalia has such a good hit ratio when it comes to her discography. All of her albums are pretty much at least decent, and this one is just one of her best as well for me. It's so good, so fun, so light. Love it. Jamiroquai, I have a soft spot for Jamiroquai, man. They're going in decent good though. I think actually it can go a bit further up the decent good. Maybe very good. I feel like it could be very good. So many clean, funky songs on this, man. I tell you, they are clean. Little L, what a track that is. So forgotten nowadays, but my God, play that right now. You'll dance, you'll have fun. Really underrated band. I've noticed that there's a lot of less talked about pop albums in a row here. But yeah, we are going to get to some of the really big popular albums in the next run here. But it's nice to mention these ones because Jens Lechman, what a songwriter he is. What an album. Lovely album, this. Kind of in a similar vein to like your Sufjan Stevens of the 2000s. Those kinds of like indie singer-songwriters that just had a knack for beauty behind the melodies. This album's so good. It is easily an all-timer for the 2000s. Absolutely. And yeah, needs way more love than it gets. I'm going to mention... Where does JT go? I think JT can go there. JT can go there. Future Sex Love Sounds, I think, is a really good album, actually. I think some of the singles are excellent. I think Sexy Back isn't that great, though, actually, when I think about it. Compared to some of his other stuff from the album and from his best work, I think Sexy Back isn't as strong. But yeah, like My Love with T.I. is great. What Goes Around Comes Around, Future Sex Love Sounds, really good stuff. I think She Knows. What a track. Weirdly, JT is an anomaly in pop music where he's just making songs that stretch out for like 7 minutes. So rare to see in pop music. I don't know why he always did that. But I think on this album, especially compared to the 2020 experience, it is way more justified that these songs run on longer than they do because the rhythms move forward, they develop, they're danceable, they're fun. The Prince influence is like so obvious. The MJ influence is like so obvious, of course, but he does well with it. And yeah, I think it's a really good album, actually. One of the girls, I'm going to go decent. One of the boys. No, it's one of the boys. One of the boys, one of the girls, one of the boys. It's all right. I actually have a hot take here. I think it's better than Teenage Dream. Although Teenage Dream probably has the higher highs in terms of like the best songs of Katy Perry's career. But in terms of like a more concise, consistent listen, I'm going to go this album. I think this is better than that album, actually. It's fun, it's cheeky, it's playful, it's very 2000s pop, for sure. Like, it's very dated and very feels like of that time. But, yeah, some really fun songs on that thing. Next one I mentioned, an underrated one, though, for sure, Khalees. I might put Khalees at the top of the decent, I think, yeah, Khalees might even go in very good, similar to Jamiroquai. Both of those kind of teetering on the edge for me. But Khalees, so underrated and overlooked is what I was meant to say. Khalees, Tasty is a really good album. Like, there's some really iconic moments like Milkshake, but when you kind of get into the deeper cuts and you find those tracks that feature Raphael Sadiq, who's a really good singer-songwriter too, by the way. And she's got a lot of range. Trick Me, great track. Millionaire with Andre 3000, great track. Yeah, this album deserves more praise. Next, we're getting into some big ones, though. We've got to mention one of the best around. Kylie Minogue. Kylie Minogue with Fever. Fever is excellent. I've already talked about Kylie before in a separate video. I've talked about how good she is. Some of her best stuff lands on Fever. It is an absolutely iconic pop album with just melodies that stick with you instantaneously. She and the production team went crazy on this one. Absolutely crazy. And it is just an absolute bop of an album. One of the best pop albums of all time. And one of the best pop albums of the 2000s as well. So yeah, it's just that good for me. And yeah, you know what? not too far behind it. We're going to go with X, and I'm going to put X here. No, not there. Here. Here. Yeah. Going to go in the excellent tier as well. Actually, an album that took a bit of time to grow on me. I listened to it first. I liked the songs, but I wasn't as big on it. But as I was playing it more, I really found a lot to love about this album. The One is fantastic. Two Hearts, obviously. Yeah, this album's great. Great. I think it came not too long after she'd like been battling cancer too, and yet she's still nailing it. Wow. All right, we're going into the more indie stuff next, but I want to mention Camera Obscura, Let's Get Out of the Country. Really good album, this. Lloyd, I'm Ready to Be Heartbroken is like so good. One of the best songs of the 2000s easily for me. Absolutely adore that track. The tracks are just so twee and sweet and really soft on the ears. Very like Belle and Sebastian stuff. Very influenced by that as well. But I think they do it so well, and I just adore the album, to be honest with you. Completely on the opposite end of things, though. That's more brash and more in your face and more angsty. Is Lily Allen, and actually I'm going to put her at the top of the very good. I think this is close to being excellent. I think this album is really fun and set her aside and apart from a lot of other artists around this time. There was no one else really as full of character and as edgy and as funny, like seriously funny as Lily Allen. Like for real, she is hilarious, and this album was so good. Smile, LDN, so many good tracks. Next, though, I want to mention this underrated gem right here. Mark Ronson, Here Come the Fuzz. Man, I'm going to put that there. I think it's a really good album, you know. Really good. I only listened to this last week. But the track that samples Boney M is so good with Ghostface Killer on it. Man, like that track is an absolute hip-hop jam. One for the ages, seriously. But this album is just star-studded with so many different features. Of course, Mark Ronson is exactly like that. But his attention to detail with the production and his ear for sampling was like so good and really underrated as well. So yeah, this is definitely an album that deserves way more attention than it gets. I realised we actually have absolutely nothing in mid, so I'm just going to skip over and drop a few mid ones. Natasha Bedingfield, I don't think anyone's going to be too upset about this, but one thing you get a lot with pop music, and I probably will say this a few times in this very video, is how like you get the singles that are just ridiculously good, and then like the rest of the album they just didn't even care about. The rest of the album, it sounds so dated. Like there's some really weird musical choices on this album, seriously. It's a very odd album and one to study for it, just how odd it sounds compared to the singles. But yeah, those tracks are just next level, unwritten, which is so good. And then everything else you can forget immediately a day later. Very similar stuff to be said about Pink as well, although I don't even know if her singles were ever that good. I don't know why I just did that, but anyway, yeah, Pink, I like feel nothing when I hear her music. You know those ballads that she kept dropping in the 2010s, like Just Give Me a Reason, or that one where it's like, what about us? What about blah? Like, I just feel so like empty when I hear her music. Like, I don't know what it is. She's a very odd singer for me. Just has no impact on my emotions ever with her. She's very strange for me, Pink. I don't get it when I listen to her. Yeah, and kind of similar reasons why Natasha Bedingfield's here. Rihanna ends up here too. Rihanna is really good, and I find like the quality gap between her excellent songs and her like weakest tracks to be like one of the widest in pop music history. Like you get some amazing tracks on an album, then you get ones that are just so like, what? Like why? What is this? And yeah, she is very much like that. The best she ever gave us, I think, was Anti. I think that's probably the most concise album she's ever delivered. But yeah, she has a lot of albums where I just don't really care for the deeper cuts. But then, of course, the singles like Umbrella are so good. Let's just go back in the order it was meant to be now. MGMT is decent to good for me. I think the highs on this album are really bloody good. Like Kids, Time to Pretend, like absolute all-timers there. But yeah, similar with some of the other albums I've said already, like the highs are crazy and then the rest is just fine. I found that to be a bit of an odd one for me. Moloko though, good God. The track, Familiar Feeling, outrageous track. What a song that is. If you're going to do anything after this video, listen to that Familiar Feeling by Moloko. For real, it's so good. It's so good. And I'm looking at my tier list. Oh, it's there. I was worried, but we have Roisin Murphy on the tier list. I was scared for a second there. I thought I'd accidentally excluded her, but she is in Moloko. Her solo stuff is like ridiculously go crazy. Yeah, she's an excellent artist, one of the most unsung heroes in pop music ever. Yeah, and this is an all-timer for the 2000s. Body Language, oh my God, You Know Me Better, wow, bangers, man, bangers on this album, like insanely like bouncy, like crunchy, bassy beats, and you've got this really charismatic singer singing over them. Roisin, wow, what an album. Great album cover too, by the way she's dressed in that little cafe, what an album cover. And speaking of good album covers too, I'm going to mention Paolo Nutini. That's a really good album cover too. I love the art style on that one, man. The little animated drawing, it's so cute. The colours are great too. I only listened to this only in the last few months for the first time ever, and I was pretty impressed actually. Some of the big band moments that sound like music that's supposed to be backing the Cuphead soundtrack or something are really impressive. But of course, some of the singles are really nice too. I think he's got a very good tone to his voice. The album didn't quite come together as being like a fantastic one or anything like that, but I enjoyed it and I thought it was good. I do want to mention Neo, and I want to throw Neo in very good. I'm going to do it. I think Neo is very good. I think Neo is actually become a bit underrated as well, actually. I think, unfortunately, over the years, he's just not kept up that longevity, you know? He never quite did it in the way that some of his contemporaries did, where they just kept going and dropping hits, but he's kind of just become a bit under the radar. He was on The Masked Singer though, so fair play to him. But yeah, I feel like we've forgotten how good he was in his peak, and this is proving that. Yeah, this is not going to go down well, but I've never got Pretty Odd. I'm going to put it the highest of the mids though. I think it's better than those. Why is it not going to the highest? Please do it. There we go. Yeah, I've never got Pretty Odd, you know? I feel like people act like it's some really characterful, quirky pop album that, you know, is odd and strange and colourful and vibrant, and I just feel so flat when I hear it. I like 9 in the Afternoon, I do, but I don't really get the appeal of this one. It feels like it doesn't land. I feel like it needs to punch a bit harder and go a bit more in the wilder direction for some of the songs to really pop. But it just never hits for me whenever I hear it. So yeah, it may be a bit of a hot take, that one, I don't know. But Postal Service, I'm going to throw in very good. A bit low down though, because I don't think I love it as much as other people do. But there's some excellent tracks on that album, man. Like some absolute fantastic tracks. Seriously, Ben Gibbard is very, very talented. There's no denying that. I want to mention Radio Department, throwing this in the all-timer, you know. Wow, the dreamiest album probably on this whole list. It's so lovely and it's so cushiony and it's so pillowy, and the vocals are so strikingly boyish. You know, they're so boyish, they're so charming to listen to, and you just can't help but fall in love with it. It's got a similar appeal actually as the Jens Lekman one. I feel like both of them are like very, you know, like they just have that charm, that instant like lovability about them that you can't really deny. And yeah, it has to go in the top tier for me for sure. It's the lowest in the top tier out of those four, but it's got to be up there with one of the best of the 2000s easily. I'm going to mention Sophie Ellis-Bextor next because I do want to pair the two Regina albums together. I'm going to put this pretty high up in the decent to good range though. A lot of the music is falling in this range, as you've probably noticed. A lot of these albums have like excellent songs on them, and then again, the rest of the album kind of falls a bit flat. And Sophie Expects to Read My Lips is exactly that for me, where like Murder on the Dance Floor is like one of the best pop songs of the 2000s period. But then some of the other tracks, kind of like other ones that I've mentioned, just sound a bit odd, and they're of its time, and they're trying to like ride the wave of the trends, and it ends up just sounding super dated because a lot of 2000s tropes have just really fizzled out and don't sound that good anymore. I don't know why a lot of these artists don't really follow the kind of vision that Kylie did, because like she never really had tracks like that. Like, she rode the wave of the trends, of course she did. I think for sure she's got albums like that, but you know, they were concise, and you didn't have like these random tracks that were detouring into weird moments that were too of its time and sound like robotic and stuff. She didn't really did that. She just, the production team and her just clearly kept everything moving at the same rate that the singles did. Like, there's no, what I'm trying to say is like there's no filler tracks on Kylie albums. There's no tracks that you kind of go, that's obviously not the single. And again, not just Sophie, there's quite a few here in this range for sure that are like obviously like that. And I don't know why none of these artists kind of copied Kylie. Why didn't Kylie have many copycats? I don't know, because she was doing it right all the time. I'm going to pair the two Regina albums here. Soviet Kitsch, I want to mention this one first because this is probably the best on the whole list for me. An absolutely adorable pop album. I've, again, waxed lyrical about this so many times on this channel. Whenever I talk about Regina, I adore this album, man. The humour, the wits, the cutesiness, the just like really relatable approach to life that Regina has. I just love it. I just absolutely love it. The writing is excellent. The tunes are so good. Like, Us is an absolute beautiful track. I wouldn't say every track on here you could label as pop, because she does go into more like ballad territory, but I had to include this one, man, because I think the bulk of it could easily be, you know, branded as pop in some one way or another, whether you want to kind of call it chamber pop or baroque pop or anything like that. You could easily call it a few things, really. There's even a rock track on this album, actually, but it just is one of the best ever, man. And for the 2000s, oh, it's so good. Again, feels underrated though. Rarely see people talk about it. And yeah, I'm gonna say Far isn't too far behind. I would put it there, actually. Very different, I think. Some of the tracks feel a bit more whimsical on this album, more twee sounding. She's not as full of like witty, silly humour that she has on Soviet Kitsch, but I don't think she really repeated that on any of her other albums anyway. But Far is beautiful. Some stunning tracks. Like, the piano melodies on that album are just absolutely to die for at times. Yeah, I think it deserves to be an excellent for sure. Alright, I've got 5 left. I'm just going to run through the rest of them now. Remember to click the link in the description. You can make your own tier list. Send it me on Twitter. Send it me wherever you want to send it me, wherever you follow me. I'd love to see your tier lists. And please, please, please subscribe as well, because I would love that. But yeah, it's not taking me as long to get through these as I thought. So let's go with Taylor in Very Good. Oh, nearly teased you there, didn't I, with that one? I think it's higher up than some of these. I would probably put it about there. If I were thinking about it a bit harder, maybe it would change. I don't really know. But again, the fact that it's in Very Good, I think that's the important thing here. Really like Taylor's Fearless. Obviously, there's the Taylor version now, which I think a lot of people would probably prefer to listen to than this one. But we are talking about a 2000s album that was released in the 2000s. And yeah, she's still got that kind of like teen girly charm on this one. You've got tracks that are very much written from a mindset of that kind of age. But I think for the bulk of it, it's a really good album. I think some of the tracks stand and live up today as well. I wouldn't say it's the best one, but I would say it's definitely very good. We had the awful category reserved for Black Eyed Peas, by the way. Just horrendous, this album. The way it's trying to sound futuristic and cool and like hip and ahead of its time is one of the biggest flops in the history of music for me. I mean, look, what am I to say that anyway? There were hits for days on this album. There were songs that were top of the charts for absolutely ages from this album. So of course, one guy saying that probably means nothing. But let me tell you right now, man, the way this album's dated so badly is so bad. Their music has aged horrendously a lot of the time. They've still got some good songs though, I'm not going to say they don't, but this album, seriously, it's an absolute mess that deserves to be studied in the history of music for the rest of time, because I cannot for the life of me explain what they were going for in this album. It is just a train wreck of a release. It might even deserve its own video one day, it's that bad. But yeah, we'll see. I think the Fame Monster can go at the top of good. I would probably say actually it might even be very good, because there's some really good songs on this album, man. Well, it's more of like an EP. It's got like 8 tracks on it, I suppose. I don't love some of these tracks as much as other people, which is why I think it's a bit lower down than some people might expect it to be. But, you know, I think it's certainly worthy of being like higher up. I just remember a few tracks not really hitting me as much as I was hoping they would. But I still think it's good though. Usher, similar. I think it's somewhere in the decent to good. Around here, there-ish. Whatever, really. It's alright. It's, again, got some great songs on it, but suffers from similar issues where the great songs are way higher than the rest of the album. And let's end with Weezer. Weezer is both simultaneously awful and simultaneously an all-timer. It's like both at the same time. But if we're being true to ourselves, it's an all-timer. So there you go. Let's call it a day. There we have it. My 2000s ranking of the pop music world from that era. There are so many that I could have included. I know you're going to tell me that I missed this and I missed that, and that's okay. Please check out my tier list and make it yourself and send it me, because I'd love to see it. That would be fantastic. Thank you as always for watching. Do have a good day. Please subscribe. Please check out my Patreon. Tell me what I should do next, if I should keep this going. Should I do another decade? I think I probably should. And yeah, tell me what I got wrong on the tier list, what I got right. Have a good day and goodbye.